What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Taron Egerton film, Rocketman. Rocketman is directed by Dexter Fletcher, stars Taron Egerton, Jamie Bell, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Richard Madden. It tells the true story of Elton John's rise from a child pianist up to being the biggest rock star in the world, and all of the troubles that came along the way from it. The performances in this movie are all fantastic. The supporting cast does a really good job. It was great to see Jamie Bell back in another role that involved singing because he is very, very talented in a musical setting. Bryce Dallas Howard was very good. Richard Madden was really good, who is someone I had no idea could sing. But this movie was a full-on musical, which is not something that I knew it was going to be. I thought it was going to be similar to most sort of movies that are a biopic about a band or a certain musician, where their music is involved because they're playing it at shows or you see them writing it. But this is a full-on musical with musical numbers and dances and things like that. But given that it is a full-on musical, I do have to give credit to the fact that all of the music tonally fits extremely well with what we're seeing at that point in the story of Elton John's life. And all of the choreography for those musical sequences is really good. It's extremely well done, it's very well directed, and everything in it fits extremely well, along with the fact that Taron Egerton, who is a major part of almost all of these sequences, does a fantastic job in them because his performance in this movie is phenomenal. Taron Egerton's performance as Elton John is the first performance so far this year that I think is truly Oscar-worthy. I know there have been some throughout the year where we're like, yeah, maybe that person deserves one, but I think this is the first truly, no questions asked, no strings attached. This is an Oscar-worthy performance. It's the best performance he's given thus far in his career. I'm sure there will be more great ones to come because, as I've said every time I review a movie with Taron Egerton, and I think he is one of the most talented young actors in Hollywood today, and I really think that this showcases the amount of range that he has. He's great in all of the musical moments. He's great in the really, really low moments of Elton John's life. He showcases the emotion that this man was going through in all of these different times in his life so well, and you truly feel for him. Yes, any movie about Elton John and all of the extravagance that was his rise to fame would be a great movie, but it's Taron Egerton's performance in this film that takes it to that next level, putting it on par with some of the best biopics about sort of famous people I personally think ever made. The set design and costume design were very good throughout the film. I think that everyone's pretty aware of how extravagant Elton John is as a person, especially when it comes to the outfits that he wears, and this movie utilized that very well. All of the ones taken from stage and certain performances were very good, but also just the ones that he was wearing in his daily life I think showcased even more just how extravagant he was, and especially in the low points in his life, how much money he was spending on things just to try to make himself happy. The story of this film is the backbone of it, obviously. We're seeing the life of this man who became one of the biggest rock stars who has ever lived, and I think that that rise is so important, but it's also the dips, because there's ups and downs throughout the story, and I think the key thing that this movie does different over a film like, let's say, Bohemian Rhapsody that was pretty bad, and my biggest issue with that film was the fact that it really just underplayed all of the horrible things that were going on in Freddie Mercury's life and how truly sad and broken of a man that he was. And instead, this film decided to show that we see Elton John in those times in his life where he is an alcoholic, cocaine addict, popping prescription pills nonstop. We see those truly awful moments, the worst times of his life. We see them in this movie because it's important for us to see those highs and those lows. We may know at that point in the movie that he's the biggest rock star in the world, but when we see him at his mansion snorting lines of cocaine and taking prescription drugs, we know that for him, it doesn't feel like he's the biggest rock star in the world because he is truly depressed. And especially as someone who was not alive during Elton John's sort of massive fame, this was really important for me to see because I had no idea, one, how insanely famous Elton John was when he was making music at the time. I didn't know that he was like the #1 artist ever at that time. I had no idea that he had troubles with drugs and alcohol to an excessive amount, and it was really great that the film didn't shy away from showcasing those to the audience. And then the directing in this film from Dexter Fletcher is wonderful. This man somehow was able to capture the music of Elton John and match it with some sort of angelic and ethereal feeling on the screen. I have to give him so much credit for that, because it's so easy to take a super well-known song like Rocketman or Tiny Dancer or something, put it in a movie with him playing it on a concert, and everyone loses their mind because they're like, I know that song and it's really good. But instead, he utilizes that music to showcase moments in his life, and specific moments that play an important role in who he ended up becoming. But I have to say, the first performance that Elton John gives in this film in LA at this club is one of my favorite scenes so far this entire year. It captures this feeling that while you're watching it, you forget that what you're seeing is supposed to be a real life thing that has happened, because it feels so out of this world. But it feels that way because they're capturing the essence of what Elton John was feeling inside of himself, and that this felt like some moment that would never come, but he was actually in the middle of doing it. My only real issue with the movie is that I think sometimes in the storytelling it gets a little bit lost in itself. We see different segments of Elton John's life where he's at, what he's doing, who's around him, and I think at times we're seeing sequences that play a small role, but I think would have been much better suited to use that time to showcase where other characters are or how their story ends with Elton John. Because especially near the end of this film, there's not a full amount of closure for a lot of characters that we meet in the film, and I think it would have been very nice to get that closure from those characters, even if it would have just been one small scene where we learned what happened to them in the end. I'm gonna give Rocketman an A-. This is exactly what a truly great film about a fantastic artist should be. It's both awe-inspiring and extremely troubling to watch at times because of the amount of fame and sort of pressure that is put on them in the position that they're in. Taron Egerton's performance in this film is absolutely wonderful, and I really would recommend this movie to anyone who enjoys Elton John's music or wants to just see an extremely well-made biopic. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of Rocketman, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and hope to see you guys later.